Cool deal.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of TRIAD Radio. This is Pick along with Mr. Marcus Welsh, aka Will. Welcome to the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, man. It's great to do radio for the first time in 2 days.
Yeah, man, you've been a little bit of a celebrity in the EFED world the last few days.
I have, yes. My celebratorial status continues to grow each second that we exist.
Yeah, you're an in-demand voice in the EFED community.
When you do a 2.5 hour radio show with
A imprisoned hacker about an iceberg concerning an online championship wrestling community, it tends to improve your status, quite a bit. So
I knew what I was getting into, and I'm prepared for the limelight
that is now thrust upon me.
Yeah, I just wish that Bobby were here to shed some light on his thoughts on Alcatraz and Cypher's imprisonment.
I agree. Bobby, I think he saw his team get 1 point on night 5, and he just decided, yeah, I ain't doing radio. So.
Yeah, for those that are wondering where the random grunts are and agreements without much talk, yeah, Bobby wasn't able to make it tonight. He's got some things going on back home, nothing big or major or anything, just hanging out with the family, doing some stuff like that. So he's not able to make it tonight, but we do have his scores that were provided for the Tribulations, which we'll get into a little bit here later. And so we will be able to discuss that. And my goal here is to tabulate the overall scores somewhat live here as Will gives his thoughts and I give my thoughts. We add Bobby's numbers in. And hopefully we walk out of here with 2 people advancing to the finals of the Tribulations.
Yep, that's the plan. We got 3, so that means one's going to be trimmed down, and it's going to be 2. And it's not easy. It's never easy here in TRIAD. It's not supposed to be. So.
Yeah, for sure. And to some degree, we had 5 invitations sent out for Tribulations. We had 3 actually role play, which I still think is a pretty good number when you consider these were folks that maybe missed out the first round, and maybe they were a little bummed and didn't want to participate, didn't want to play second fiddle, however you want to word it, but they came through and they showed up. And so tonight we're going to spotlight J-Mont and Ricky and the Raven,
the OG
Alex Raven. So Mr. Raisin himself. So we're going to get to spotlight those guys, and it's going to be a fun time. We're also going to start off by talking a little bit about I should say night 5. Night 5 of the trials, which took place in, is it Bayonne? Bayonne,
maybe.
Okay.
See, I'm just glad if Bobby is going to miss a show, it's this one, because I think Bayonne is maybe the easiest one to pronounce. So,
yeah,
if he missed next week with Priya, Leah, Via, Vivu, yeah, we'd be in trouble. So.
Yeah, he's somewhere cussing us right now.
Yeah, he can feel the Cambodian fury rising up in his loins. So.
But so let's talk about it, I guess, right? Anything important you want to say before we get into it, or should we just do it?
All right. Well, I guess now's the time where I'll go ahead and just do my little talk. So, for the last month, we've put a lot of time and energy into these trials, whether it be the graphics you make, the storyline ideas Bobby comes up with, or the match writing and stuff that I do, and then the social media pushing and coaching, everything that goes into this. It's a lot. I'd say we spend maybe 10 hours at least a week each, working on TRIAD just to make it about the best fed we can. And so when we put up the night 5 results, we received a lot of negativity, a lot of negative feedback. And that's fine. That's fine. That's what that's for. But I found a number of the comments to be unreasonably angry or just kind of irrational. you know, and it just kind of it takes you out of the immersion of creating something for so many people. So basically, what I'm saying right now is whatever you have said or done to us in the last week, that's fine. It's a clean slate. We're starting over. So you know don't worry about your tone or anything like that. We're not going to hold anything against you. We're starting new. But and we're going to take the criticisms and everything that we got, and we're going to apply them into the next results, and we're going to do our very best, and we're going to do everything we can to correct the errors that you all felt were made on night 5. But we are not going to fundamentally change what we do here, because what we do here works. So when night 6 results are posted, and if you find yourself feeling irrationally angry or furious about what you've read, then I want you to do one thing. I want you to quit TRIAD and go find another Fed. And I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm saying that because it's pretty clear at that point that what we put out is not what you're looking for. And we've got 20 other handlers out there that would be welcome and excited to come in and take your spot that would enjoy what we're doing. So if you just don't like our product, we'll find out after night 6. And if that's the case, then you guys need to leave and we'll just fill your spot with somebody else. And that's the fact, because it's just too much work goes into this, and there's too much going on, and it's just not, it ain't worth the bullshit. So that's all I really got to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, I just feel like if there is any, at the end of the day, we're writing fiction, wrestling fiction. And if anybody is to the point of, and I don't even know specifically that, I know that some, we had some feedback that was, it seemed anyway that it was pretty well taken personally at times or something like that. And, that's not the point of any of this. Like, we're not, I mean, of course, and I should say we, but like, you wrote the entire show, start to finish. Thousands of words, poured in over the course of really only 2.5 days, because, with the format that we have with elimination style matches, if the role plays aren't in until deadline day, there's really not a lot of turnaround time. So, taking those, 16 role plays that we read, trying to find the character inside of those, and then turning that character into something that's a viable product, on a show. If you took it in a direction that the handler didn't want it to go in, I mean, obviously we can understand the frustration that goes into that, because they spend as much time cultivating the character and, writing these things as anybody. But yeah, like what I think the takeaway is, there's no reason for either side, whether you're the writer or you're the Fed head or whatever, to have a lot of animosity or a lot of frustration. And if it comes down to a situation where, like, I've put so much time into this character and I don't feel like you're interpreting it correctly, it would be best to, proverbially shake hands and walk away, than it would to, just to harbor animosity or to keep going on, for whatever reason, out of spite or whatever the case is. I think, sowing discord is not really, the thing that we're about. We want to get along with all the handlers. I mean, we create discord, we create this atmosphere online where we want to have this community, this TRIAD community. We want to goof off. We want to have people that are in good moods, that want to play trivia and rag on each other and come up with cool storylines along the way. So, we're certainly not, like mad at anybody necessarily, but we just want to make sure that it's healthy for everyone involved, because, the time, I can speak to myself. I'm not really the match writer at the moment, but, for me, the time put in for the graphics is pretty significant. When, if anybody knows anything about graphics, I mean, it's not something that you do in 3 seconds and move on with your day. Or at least not. I'm not good enough to do it like that, I guess.
Oh well, some Fed heads do, but you can tell.
Yeah. So, we put time into it, and nobody's getting paid.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of that thing
Mhm.
where it's give and take a little bit, and understand the goal here. Like there's and maybe it's a situation where other Fed heads have burned people in the past. I don't know. And
Mhm.
somebody obviously we just had Pissgate here
Yeah.
recently, and maybe that's fresh on people's minds. But I mean, I can assure you, at least for me, there's no. My goal is to put out the best product. I mean, I honestly want Triad to go down as the best Fed there ever was. That's my goal.
Mhm.
That's why I put the time into the graphics. That's why I take the time to meet these handlers that I don't know personally. Um, and the only way that it succeeds is if they succeed. If everyone comes off looking like $1,000,000, and so yeah, we want to take those criticisms. If we didn't get your character correct, we certainly want to fix that. But
Yeah, and I go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
no,
cut
no, no,
you off.
you're good. I just want to say, but in terms of that, like we want to get the character correct, but if we don't,
Mhm.
and it causes you that much stress or whatever, then it would just be better, I think, for you, to find another place that would do your character more justice, instead of being all stressed and mad all the time, because I don't think
Yeah.
that's healthy for anybody.
Yeah, and to kind of echo what you said, like my goal in this at this stage of my existence in this game is to provide entertainment to the handlers. I got nothing left to prove in this game. I've done everything. So I'm only here so that you guys can have fun. And when I get a bunch of negative feedback, it's like Jesus Christ, like I mean, it sort of dims the energy I have to put out a good product.
Yeah.
And then you get in your head and you're like, well, but basically, like I respect and I like everybody in Triad. I really do. Whether they've been kind to me or whatever, I like them all because I respect the ability and the time and the energy they put into their characters. And I do not go into these shows with an idea of making anybody look bad. I'm not going to make anybody drink piss. I'm not going to purposely go out of my way to besmirch or ruin a character. I'm going to come up with stuff that I think people can use and will have fun with. Now, if you don't like that, or if you find my ideas to consistently anger you, then yeah, this isn't the Fed for you because I always put my own personality in the results, and that's what most people like. But I get that some people aren't going to like what I do, and that's cool, and that's all right. And if that's the case, we'll find out after night 6. And if you're angry or furious or whatever, then we'll just we'll just move on. We'll go grab someone else who will come in and we'll enjoy the process and enjoy the environment we've created.
Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to that. And like we said, we're not. I think clean slate's the right answer or the right way to say that. I mean, like we want
Mm-hmm.
to move forward. I'm really excited to read some role plays. Hoping that some of the feedback that we gave is helpful. Hoping that people
Mm-hmm.
maybe took that the right way. Yeah, because that's one of the things that's maybe the hardest to navigate in this game, because everybody wants feedback until they get feedback, and
Mm-hmm.
then
Yeah.
and then when the feedback doesn't necessarily match what you were expecting to hear, it doesn't always benefit you to have actually had that feedback. We had people last
Mm-hmm.
time that kind of refused it,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that benefited them in some ways, but I also understand wanting feedback as a writer. When I was, I mean, we asked for feedback for the shows, so I mean, I get
Yeah.
feedback is important, and as a role
And
player,
I'm not really upset with any of the posts in the feedback thread. There was some stuff that was sent privately that was pretty acerbic, pretty acidic, maybe the better term, pretty corrosive, pretty unreasonable,
okay,
and that's just the kind of stuff that I'm not going to put up with after the next show. So
yeah, no, I
Hey, you
get you.
guys
I
sound
get.
so angry.
hey man,
Oh,
I was angry because you weren't here, but now you've brightened up my day. Now
there
I
he
just
is.
feel there's that sweet
I've got
voice.
about I've got about 20 minutes
Okay.
Okay, all
before we
right,
get
all right.
back to
So
the
what do you want to say, Bobby?
night.
What do you got on your mind?
No, I mean, you know, you you guys have said it. I mean, No one's getting paid to do this, so we're all trying to have fun. Let's make it fun.
And I don't want anybody to think we're pointing anybody out singularly. Like, this is just this thing moving forward. Everything that happened in the past is in the past. We're over it. We've forgotten it. We're moving forward, clean slate. So we'll see what happens after night 6.
Yeah, sounds good. So speaking of night 5, we can kind of continue in that vein a little bit. Just we'll hit some highlights. We won't talk role plays at this point. I mean, we've sent out the feedback. People know kind of where we stood on these, but we had 4 incredible matchups. We had, the opening bout was. Think about this. The first match of night 5 is Alias, Sarah Wolf, and Seb. And then, of course, we had Glum, who was unfortunately unable to participate. But, I mean, those 3 names would headline any Fed in existence at this point. So, crazy match to start off with. The writing was, as expected, very good, very, very strong across the board. And, that's the thing. The first round of Triad was hard because 2 people would feel like they lost each match. And now we're at a point where actually 3 people feel like they lose. And so that's maybe the hardest thing, is to know that you could have put up one of the best role plays of the week and you might end up in second place in your match, or in some cases third place. And it just happened to be that the people you were up against just put up better work that specific week. But this was a great match. I'm not going to speak to the writing of the matches. I'm on record. I think Will's probably the best match writer out there. But, trying to give everybody something to work with. And, you're not going to always get it right when that's the case.
No.
But you're trying, to give a character somewhere to move forward in the Triad world. And that's really all you can ask for. And if it's not the right movement, then the character can just sort of pivot and do something what they want to do next time and pretend it didn't happen for the most part. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about fictional writing here. It's the four people read it, and it's just the 4 of you that were in the match pretty much. I mean, this isn't something that's being broadcast out for national consumption necessarily.
Yeah, I try to come up with storylines for each match before I go into them. That way I have a story that begins, middles, and ends, so that there's cohesion and there's something to unfold. So this one was interesting because at first it was going to be Sarah Wolf, almost kind of like being like Dionysus in the next match, just this total terror, and Seb and Alias have to take her out so that then they can finally see who's better between Seb and Alias, these 2 outside powers that are looking to test themselves against each other. Nothing against Sarah Wolf, but she's the triumphant enemy, and they're trying to get rid of her so then they can have a I don't know, like you call it gentlemen's, but an up and up match without any sort of triumphant trickery.
Sure.
Then Glum leaves and Nox steps in, and that changed everything, because then it's like, oh, I can work this in with Nox, where he fucks with Wolf, she gets eliminated, and it carries over the storyline from the previous trials.
Yeah.
And so that's where I went with that. And then Seb and Alias got to have their little showcase there at the end, where Alias was just one little move better than Seb, and I enjoyed writing the match. I enjoyed the role plays. So and I think I think it was a good match. So
yeah, a lot of strong work there. And like you said, with Nox coming in like he did, I mean, it wasn't ideal. I mean, we drafted Glum. We wanted Glum to be part of it, but life happens, and Nox was willing to step in kind of last minute, and we even thought about if we could get a hold of him in time, trying to get something up as far as a role play, but it really wouldn't have been fair to grade it against the others who didn't know he was going to be writing. Wouldn't be fair to the character to take the loss, on a 1-day notice. So I think the best of both worlds there was, like you said, we continue the storyline with Nox versus the Triumvirate. And hopefully that leads to some more cool stuff in the next couple weeks.
Absolutely, it's got all the makings there for success.
Yeah, Bobby, you still there?
Yeah.
Bobby, did you even read the show?
What show? Just kidding. Yeah, no, yeah.
Man,
I mean,
I
I'm
don't know what we're
excited
gonna
that,
do it when he leaves.
you know,
I don't know.
I'm excited that Matt Knox is on the team. I mean, it sucks that, Glum had to step out, but I feel like, Matt Knox is a good addition. So,
Yeah, I do too. I'm excited to see what he puts down. I know he's very, very motivated.
For sure. And was the first time, and I think that was maybe you take it for granted, but he was a rally point for Team Pick in the out of character boards. Driving some segments, driving some promo work, and so I think for Team TLS, that's a huge pickup for somebody that is very interested in collaboration, very interested in and moving the story forward, and I think you're going to see a lot more segments coming out now in the next couple weeks with him on board. So that's going to be a good thing.
Yes,
definitely.
So then the next match we had was Steven Stratford, Dionysus, Sahara, and Nickel Man. And I don't know, this wasn't broadcast or advertised. I did speak to a few people about it, but if anybody maybe didn't pick up on this, every match was designed for this show to be a showcase of a 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 4 in terms of draft picks. And of course, it was kind of hard to do that with the triumvirate because, they didn't really draft. But I went off of essentially where their standings were in the bravery trials. So we had Vodka was the number 1. I believe Wolf was 2, Strat was 3, and then of course Bacchus wasn't there before, so he kind of slotted in as that 4th spot. But so like for this match, you had Nickelman was number 1. Dionysus was a 2, Strat was a 3, and Sahara was a pick 4. And every match was designed that way, even before the draft, because I wanted to see, this first week, kind of not necessarily give the number 1 picks an easy draw, but, right out of the gate, see how the draft ended up being, how even was it across the board. And we saw, like in this match, of course, Sahara was your 4th pick, and came out victorious. So, I mean, the draft is very strong, top to bottom, just as a proving point there.
Yeah, it is. As far as this match goes, the story that in this match, it was again like most of the night, and not so much with Bacchus, but with the 3 triumvirate members. The story was, like, if you read the intro, everybody versus triumvirate, just kind of borrowing from how they came in. They're like, oh god, they're in this, like the storyline and everything. And so Stratford was actually going in there, and he was going to have the numbers against him, but then he knows Sahara, and it's like, okay, maybe we can broker a deal here. And then that happens, and then Dionysus was like, well, Nickelman, and then Nickelman's, of course, no, because Nickelman's crazy. And I thought about having Dionysus and Nickel team up, but then I thought, no, I don't think that really works. So it just sort of, and then, the results also play a part in it. And when it came down to Dionysus against Stratford and Sahara, I could have had Dionysus just kind of get run over, but I thought, you know what, this is a good chance for him to look really strong. He's like 6'5", 270 anyway.
Sure, yeah.
And I thought, yeah, just put him over big, and then have the constant thing with Stratford saving Sahara because he needs her to help put down Dionysus, and then once Dionysus is down, Sahara beats him to the punch, steals the win, and there you go. And it's a different story for Stratford this go around than the last time, where he was the master manipulator. This time, maybe he took it for granted a little bit, and now he's got some, like setting up like these trials are not going to be like the last trials, kind of for him. So
yeah, I can definitely see that. And just from a grading standpoint, I know we're not gonna talk too much about the grades, but this was the match that was the closest with all 4 competitors across the board that we had.
Yeah, that was.
I'm looking at the scores, and from first place to last, or first to 4th, I should say. But you had 0.75 of a point from first to 4th, and
it's pretty close.
Yeah, I don't know that it gets a whole lot closer than that, And all 4 of those scores were. Without looking at the bravery trials, but I would say all 4 of those scores would have done very, very well in the bravery trials on any given week. They were all.
I think I think the biggest shock with Night 5 was just how elevated everything was from the previous trials. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would agree.
you had, yeah, I mean, Nickel Man's role play, the way it was graded, I mean, he would have won a couple of matches in those Bravery trials. As it was, in this go around, he was fourth. So,
Yeah, I mean, you're that's not even hyperbole to say that. I mean, it really was, his score. Well, I think I did tweet it out, or maybe I just mentioned it in the Discord. But now this is me personally. This isn't the overall grades, but I was looking back at my personal grades, and I think I had 18 out of 60 that scored above a 13 in bravery, and I had 8 out of 15 that were above 50,
yeah.
that same score this time around. So you're talking about like a 30% increase in quality, really, and this is just the first night. So I mean, it was a testament to the strength of the writing across the board. It's one of those deals where like you read that role play and you realize it's going to end up fourth, and you just kind of like cringe because man, that was so good. How does that not get a point?
And you're splitting hairs, because I know some people will say, well, all I got in my feedback was to keep doing what I'm doing, but I lost. It's like, well, like sometimes you just lose. Sometimes somebody's just graded a little higher. I mean, it's really difficult. Like I don't want to tell somebody who finishes second to reinvent the wheel, because the wheel works just fine. They're gonna, and it's tough. It's a very competitive field, and people shouldn't get so caught up in the wins and losses, because everybody's gonna lose and very few are gonna win. So
yeah, that's true. And we'll talk a little bit more before we get into the actual tribulation grading. We'll kind of break down the grading system and how we do it. And then we kind of think it might be a cool idea to see how this process works for us. I think that's maybe the hardest thing to understand, that we're not, for example, like in that match, nobody sat down and was like, well, was Sahara's better than Stratford's, or was Dionysus better than Nickel Man? What we did was we individually read the role plays, we grade the role plays individually, we discuss them together, and then we take those grades and we average them together, and the best grade wins. And it kind of keeps the name out, it keeps the reputation out, it keeps any sort of, and there's not really politics, but it keeps any of the ancillary stuff that's not about the writing out of it. We read it, we enjoy it, we don't enjoy it, whatever the case might be, and then we just average those grades. And that's kind of what happens here. We're almost as shocked as you are sometimes, not because we didn't think it was a good role play, but just because we might not be keeping up with the number that you said and the number that I said until we add them all together, and then we find out, wow, this one actually scored better than the other. Maybe that's not it's not the only way to grade, but it's the way we have found with Triad that seems to work best for us. So
yeah, I think it works best because it gives all three of us an equal voice. I think maybe sometimes in the bravery trials, one voice might get heard more than the other, and I'm speaking that from my point of view. I think maybe sometimes I might have pushed someone a little harder, whereas this time it's just straight scores. And that's what it is. And I think given the quality of the competitors, it's the best way to do it, because there's going to be a lot we disagree on, but the scores are going to be what they are.
Yeah.
And we just, that's just what we go with it. And that's how you just go with the numbers,
Yep. And as a numbers guy, that makes sense to me. I like it. Mm-hmm. All right. So match 3, we had Mancini, Harvey Marks, Johnny Bacchus, and Cat Cortez. Another just crazy lineup of 4 riders, all unique, all different. You've got Bacchus is an incredible, has a great use of metaphor and analogy, and just really can set a scene. You got Cat Cortez, who's going to be coming at you with all kinds of wit and just a ton of pop culture references. Harvey is the master promoter, always looking to what's the angle he can put over. And then you got Mancini, who is just this essential, I guess, wild card of death. Like, he's just out to kill a bunch of people, and or they're out to get him first. So I mean, it was like this. The role plays could not have been different in this one. I think sometimes they get very similar, But in this match, they were all over the place in a good way. You got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I felt like Kat picked up where she left off. I felt Bacchus really gave us a good intro to what's to come. Like you got a good feel for what kind of rider he is, which is very strong. Harvey's was entertaining, and I feel like I really liked Mancini's. I liked Mancini's. Yeah, but I'm always like, that reminded me of some old school mafia stuff that used to get me fetting all the time, or at least I remember seeing. I kind of like sort of the throwback to this menacing mafioso. But as far as the match, this was the one I took the most liberties in, and I made some calls, and I probably pushed things a little too far in some spots, but I was trying to figure out a way to get Harvey out of there without having a 6'7", 450-pound guy just eat the pin real fast. And I came up with the handcuff spot, and I went with that. And then Kat and Mancini, and then Kat rolling up Bacchus, because she's just a little quicker, and that was sort of how it played out. And I felt like, I felt, for what I did, it was okay, but and I'm getting to know these characters, obviously, so.
Yeah, and I think that's something, when you don't write matches, which it's been I guess it was been since the Ghost Ship, and those weren't really matches. Those were more spectacles or events, as pay-per-views tend to be. But, going back to OCW writing matches, the hardest thing for me was always when it would be something like a 400-pound man versus a 120-pound girl or woman. And you're like, I remember this one match, and not to go too far off on a tangent, but it was somebody with a Ariana Grande pick bass.
Oh God.
And Mike Mason.
Yeah.
And she's 95 pounds, he's 320, nothing but muscle. Yeah. And how do you write a match that's actually wrestling believable, where that the 95-pound person has an equal chance of winning? And those are the things I think that are the hardest. Obviously when it's a 4-way match, it compounds that, because now you've got to know where everybody is at all times. Just a lot to keep track of. So yeah, I think taking liberties like that and coming up with ways. There's not. I think it's a good strategy to do it. Sometimes you hit, like I said, sometimes you miss, and if it doesn't work out, then you course correct, and next time you figure out what makes that character the best version of them that it can be, and hopefully that works for everybody. So I think I think it was a good match. I think that it got a little weird with the dancing and all that kind of stuff, but hey, it's e-fetting. People have fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Every now and then.
Yeah. My mind only went there because I read his entrance, and he comes down to Gloria Estefan. I thought, oh, okay, so this guy likes to, but yeah. It was a chance. Sometimes you walk up to a girl and you hit on her and she throws her drink in your face. So then you say, all right, well, we'll try again next time. So.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Wish you had better luck in life.
It only happens about once every couple weeks. So.
All right, so then we had our final match of the night, and this was the second most competitive, and actually, to some degree, it probably was the most competitive, but in terms of first to fourth, it wasn't quite as close as the second match, but it was Spencer Adams, Vodka Black, Dad Bod, and of course Dickie Watson. And obviously with Vodka, we knew what we were getting here, because Vodka was part of, for me, going back to the Great Illuminatus last year, was my first introduction to the character and the writing, which was fantastic. And then we had a match together after that, and then of course winning the Bravery Trials as she did, just in some ways complete dominance. Not to say that the matches weren't close sometimes, but the fact that each and every week she was either in first place or maybe right there under at second, and then of course going on to win the finals. A super huge favorite here in this round, and it was .08 for first and second here, .08 of a point. between Dad Bod and Vodka for first and second. So it was a really close match. And then you had Dickie Watson in there, who I did not know, Spencer Adams, who I did not know. And honestly, Dad Bod, I've only read one Matt Mayhew role play, and I don't think I've read any Dad Bod role plays. So other than the CD that he did, which is why I drafted him in the first place, because I thought the writing was so good. And so, you've got these four, what's the way to say? I mean, heavy hitters, right, in the business. And
heavy hitters, baby.
They're heavy hitters. And, like I said, I didn't know Adams. I didn't know Watson, but both of them put up something that was very, very strong. And, again, it comes down to almost more than anything, who were you against this week? And it just so happened that, Vodka and Dad Bod were numbers 1 and 2 in the whole field. So it's kind of a hard draw for round one. And I loved everything. Like every single thing about these role plays, I just very much enjoyed. And that's what makes it the hardest thing, that you have to then go back and almost pick a favorite, because, I don't really know that I had a favorite. They were all so good.
Yeah. And they were all very different. I just think, if you're going to ask me to name who the best role player in the game is right now of anybody I've seen, it's Vodka. I don't think anybody's better than her. Of course, her role plays are going to vary. Some are going to be unbeatable, and others are going to be almost unbeatable. But, hands down, each time, she's just the best role player I've seen in a long time.
Well, now that I'm retired, now that I'm retired, right?
Yeah, now that you're retired, obviously, and if Bobby could ever get a role play complete, he might be up there. But and then Mayhew, I think one thing Mayhew does that a lot of people don't catch on to is he's simplistically complex. Like you read it and you think, but it's there's complexity in there, just written in a very simplistic, everyday manner, which is to me pretty hard to do. I loved Watson's role play. I thought it was extremely cerebral, and I loved just getting into sort of the mind of the character. And it really, of all the new characters, I understood Dickie the most of any of them after their introductory role play. Like I immediately was like, I got this one. I know who Dickie is, and I won't have any trouble writing. Now, as far as and Spencer Adams, I feel like if he can cut down on the promo, I feel like the writing is there.
Yeah,
got the talent, just has to add more CD to it. And but I don't want to get too much into the grading because they got the grades. But as far as the match goes, I mean, it was a strange concept. It was a very elongated sort of concept. And I thought, well, if Dad Bod wins, he's going to lose every fall, and then he just lucks into it because, I mean, to me, that made the most sense. How is this Dad Bod going to realistically go toe-to-toe with these three world champions, roughly. And so, a little comedy here, a little comedy there. And then with the Crater, I thought, well, he'll mess with the triangle, and then we'll just see the power of the Triad, right? Because, I know the Crater and everything was a little weird, but we had ghost ships, and we had triangle lightning strikes in the sky in Bravery. So I don't know how this was, really that big of a departure from what we were doing in the previous trials. But I'll rein it back a bit on that mythical stuff or magical stuff or whatever you want to call it. But I wanted to show when he grabbed it, like nobody can own that. The vodka, it's hers. Like the powers that are within that triad are not going to let anybody have it because she earned it. And that was the point of having that spot. He got it, and the damn fucking place nearly caved in on itself because this ain't yours, man. This is hers. She earned it. So nobody's going to take it from her. She earned it. So anyway, and then he lucks into it, and I like the Dickie Watson and the vodka stuff because they have some history, and so it was a fun match to write. I actually enjoyed writing it a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah, the match concept itself, speaking personally, I had a hard time understanding it at first, and we kind of talked about that. I was asking a lot of questions, like, so wait a minute, he doesn't get a point if he does this, and it was kind of confusing to me, but and maybe that, if there was anything we could have done better is try to explain that a little bit better to anybody beforehand, but I mean, it was a different thing, and what is wrestling if you don't try something different? Again, we're experimenting in a world where mythical pieces of metal from thousands and thousands of years ago hold this power that can change everything, and there's gonna have to be some supernatural elements. We had a ghost ship that turns into, Vodka is seeing the ghost on the ghost ship in her normal everyday life now. Like that's a
Yeah.
moment that
Sure.
that has kind of been cemented into that character's story now for for who knows how long. But that's in what do they call it, the show book in TV. They call it like the show Bible or something like that. Like that's become part of that character's lore and history.
Canon. Yeah.
So those are things that as we progress, I mean, we're going to see some stuff. We're going to have to. I mean, it's just.
Well, this whole thing is based off of a pyramid that was discovered on the side of Mount Everest. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So
for sure.
But yeah, but look, I appreciate the feedback. I don't mean to make light of it. It's just some of it surprises you. You're like, oh, I thought we had already opened that box. Okay, I'll close the lid on that box a little bit, and we'll rein things in a bit for the next show. But yeah. So I don't know what else I can really say about it other than it was. Oh yeah, that match was convoluted. I remember writing the Belvedere explaining it. I just kept going and going, and then after he explained, I looked. I was like, God damn, that's like 5 sentences.
Yeah, it's
like.
It's like when Jeff Jarrett first pitches the TNA King of the Mountain match. So I pin this guy, he goes in a penalty box, and then I can climb the ladder and hang the belt instead of get the belt. Like that's interesting.
Yeah. I will say I am very how relieved I am to have just basically a standard ladder match as our main event for this next week.
Heck yeah!
I do like the concept of lighting the dragon's mouth. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that'll be a cool visual to think about whenever you're writing.
Maybe I'll set someone on fire. So we'll see.
All right, so that was night 5. And I think overall it was a success. I know that some people were more happy about the portrayal of their character than others, but I mean, at the end of the day, we had an incredible show. Moving on from night 5, we're headed to a place that I can't pronounce for night 6, and it's going to be exciting. We're going to have all fresh matchups, and some people had some questions about how the tag team matches work, and I think we've ironed that out as far as being able to explain that, but essentially they don't work any differently grade-wise than any other match. We're going to do an elimination style, and the way it'll work is, for example, the first match is Vodka and Dionysus versus Knox and Seb. So in that match, the person with what we feel is the weakest role play will be the first person eliminated from the match, whether that's pin or submission. And then the other team essentially then has a 2-on-1 advantage in the story. But if that person that's left on that team did end up writing the strongest role play, they will eventually win that match. And so it's more plot device than anything. It's something so that Will doesn't have to write 4-way matches until he dies. He can write a little bit of tag team action and kind of switch that up. And as far as the story goes, you're pitting people who don't like each other, but maybe you're putting them on the same team now, and looking at what that chemistry or lack of could potentially look like in the story. But you may have a situation where it's 2-0, where both members of one team survive. You might have a situation where it gets down to 1 versus 1, and then somebody wins. There's so many different possibilities that can exist there, but in terms of grading, nobody needs to worry about if they're tied to someone else's score. If your score is the best, you win. If you score second, you finish second, and so forth. So hopefully that sort of clears that up. And we kind of had that question too at first when we were coming up with the idea, but we just didn't want all the matches to seem like they were the same match. And I think this is one somewhat easy way we can do that without changing too much of the dynamic.
Yeah, I think this way it keeps the point system pretty simple, and ultimately the point system is paramount when you get into these matches, because that's what everything is building into, is the points and the standings and who advances and this, that, and the other. So I know the elimination aspect kind of takes a little bit from the tag aspect, because these people don't have to work with each other, but they could. I mean, there's ways you can play it. But yeah, for the point system, I think it's the right call, and I think it works.
Yeah, and I think that the choice there, and maybe that's something in a conversation with, let's say, Knox and Seb are on a team, so maybe we talk to them ahead of time and say, how much are you willing to work with each other, and that kind of gives us an idea, because Knox might not have to save Seb, but if he doesn't save Seb, then he's got a 2-on-1 disadvantage in character, and so there does have to be some sort of element of, this is my teammate and I am, hitched to them. But at the first sign of, cut and running, kind of like in the Royal Rumble, sometimes you throw your partner over the ropes to gain the advantage. So
yeah, that's true.
It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
And also, I created the suggestions forms, and one of the reasons I did that was A, to keep things organized, and B, because to avoid some of these conversations that are just not entertaining at all. But yeah, use the suggestion forms. If you feel like you need to get something across in your match with your character and the other characters that are in this match, send me a suggestion. I can't read your mind, so send me a suggestion. Otherwise, I'm just going to come up with stuff while I'm writing it based upon what I've read from your character, and it may hit and it may not. But if you are very concerned about how your character is going to react to some of these people in this match, and you don't know if I know that, send me a suggestion form. For the love of God, send me a suggestion form.
Yeah. That'll definitely help.
Yes.
Okay, so transitioning. So night 6 obviously is going to be great, but before we get to night 6, we have our first ever tribulation. And, we've talked a little bit about how this came about, how ultimately we wanted I think there were 37 applicants. We wanted everybody that wanted to participate to be involved, and this was kind of what we came up with. But we can't write another show. The trials are every 2 weeks, and it takes a lot of planning on your end and a lot of writing and everything. So it would just be too much burnout to have a second show. So we came up with the Tribulations. We invited, it was invitation only for the people who were, who didn't get drafted. And the idea was we would invite 5 or 6 each week to participate in a one role play battle. And the 2 winners, will move on to the pay-per-view where they will get an actual match there. And then the one winner of that match will go on to be the number 1 pick in the WIT trials. So we know where we're headed with this, but we didn't know what kind of participation level we'd be getting. And so it was, like we said early on, it was kind of awesome to see that 3 people did choose to take part. And, we are going to do our best to just limit the conversation to the 3 that chose to be part of it, because if you didn't choose to be, there was a reason. Whatever your reason was, it's not our business. So just keep in mind, when we talk about these role plays, that they didn't know that you weren't going to participate. And so they might, have mentioned you, and we might talk about that a little bit. But in terms of, just keeping up with the handler, you're not, if you didn't role play for this, you have not participated in TRIAD. And we know that, and we're not going to, make your character do weird things or anything like that. But if somebody mentioned them and we felt it worth talking about on here, then we will do that, and we'll leave it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of disappointed Bonnie didn't post one, because I feel like that's a character that could maybe make a run. I really like how different that character is, but I get it. I was kind of wondering if, I don't know, this may not be the show for it, but I was thinking, we all grade a little differently, and I was wondering if we couldn't maybe just kind of explain what really hits us with an RP, and that might be too difficult to explain. I don't know. I know, like we all look for different things, but I don't know. We'll just get into the grading of this and we'll just talk it out.
Yeah. And so, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe as we go to say, what we were looking for or what we're interested in.
Yeah, because I think, with the 3 of us and with us averaging our grades, we'll see grades come in and it'll be like, whoa, and I really, so, and I think some people maybe, we send feedback forms, but we all have different tastes, the 3 of us, and we're pretty similar. But there are certain things that some of us grade higher than others. And
Yeah.
I think there are some people who maybe struggle in an area that is very important to one of the graders, and it keeps them from being able to get to where they feel like they should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of agree, I agree with that. I think it is very hard if three different people are grading and they all have the exact same taste. Then what's the point of having three people? Why didn't American Idol just have Simon Cowell as the judge? Like, why were the other two people ever there if all we wanted was one consensus answer? And of course Bobby is our Simon. I think that's pretty obvious in terms of he's a very harsh grader, but he's consistently harsh, and that's one of the things I do appreciate is he knows what he's looking for, and if he doesn't see it, he doesn't see it, and that's great. But yeah, like in terms of what I'm looking for for promo, for readability, for CD. And this might be helpful too. Keep in mind, if you're listening out there, that we are not grading on who's the best writer. This is not a writing I mean, it is a writing competition. Don't get me wrong. I shouldn't say it like that. But we're grading on who had the best promo, who had the best readability, and who had the best CD in a wrestling-related role play. Where your character is a professional wrestler, and we're seeing them out of that element, so to speak, in their everyday life, with the exception of, you're probably not in Cambodia in your everyday life. But so like what I'm looking for when it comes to promo, what I love is somebody who can weave that promo stylistically throughout. It doesn't necessarily have to be part here, part there. A lot of people like to write all CD and then write all promo. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But what I like is a theme. I kind of dig the idea that maybe this entire role play is fashioned around this one idea, and I can see it in the CD, and then the person expounds upon it in the promo. I think that, to me, is a winning role play across the board. If you can do that without switching tenses so much, which I know sounds like a very big nitpick, but it does kill readability when you are present tense, then past tense, then back to present, then back to past. If you can do it where, in some cases, a lot of people are good at the promo talk being inside of the role play, even like in casual conversation, where the whole thing really just reads like one cohesive piece. And that's not to say that's the only thing that I score highly. Those are just things that, like, if I could have my perfect role play written for me, those are some things that I'm looking for. And I love, it doesn't have to be this way, but I love when a promo tells the truth about an opponent in a way that proves that you're better. Mm-hmm. And so if it's a case of, you have won here, here, and here, and you've had success everywhere you go, and the reason you've had success is the reason you're going to fail here, because you've never had adversity and you're staring him in the face right now. Those kind of things, to me, are what made an old school wrestling promo work in the 80s. It's what makes it work in the 90s. It's what makes it work today. I'm going to take everything you're saying, but I'm going to make you see why you're wrong in what you're saying and what you've done. So those are my thoughts. That's what I'm kind of looking for. If I don't get that, that doesn't mean I don't grade it highly. It just means it's not like a 15 out of 15, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think the only 15 out of 15 I ever gave was to myself. So
sure, yeah, all the time.
To just kind of put it into, I guess, context, what I look for is I just look for a role play that just flows from beginning to end and is about as natural and seamless and easy to read as possible. Some things can be jarring. It's funny you mentioned the tenses. We had, I think, a couple role plays that switched in and out, and it was weird because one of them, I noticed immediately. And the other one, I didn't even catch it until you mentioned it. I was like, oh, wow. So it's weird how that can sometimes take you out of it. And sometimes you just go right through it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's the check marks, there's the promo and the readability and the wit. But the stuff that just feels natural and normal and within the character, that's the kind of stuff I enjoy the most. Creating an atmosphere and creating just I don't know. I know that's probably kind of vague, but that's sort of what I look for. That's why people like vodka and Dad Bod, and I'm trying to think of Sahara. That's why they score so well, is because the entire thing you feel like you're in the mind and in the life of that character. So
Yeah, I get that. And then you get somebody like Cat, which I'll say.
oh yeah, I don't yeah.
Which is kind of
I can't prop up Cat too much.
But it's kind of similar to what you were saying though, like how not necessarily an overall story, and I think that's sometimes it's kind of confusing. Is well, this is more like of a contained piece, like it has a start, a middle, and an end, and doesn't necessarily transcend on in a long-term storyline. Not that it doesn't, but maybe not as much as some others. But you have something where it's that character is so well done that whatever they're doing is believable for a full 2K start finish end kind of story. And not to say that it's perfect or anyone has been writing perfect, but those are things that it's interesting that I can read. I had several role plays that were graded very similarly that were so far different from each other. And I was having a conversation with somebody, and I kind of likened it. Now this will show my age here, but whatever. We're all old for the most part. But I was comparing it to watching an episode of The Office or an episode of Lost. Back in like 2004, 2005, or something like that. And I love both of those shows. Those are like my two favorite shows, maybe of all time, but they're definitely up there. And could those shows be any different? Like, you've got this supposed workplace comedy documentary, and then people stranded on an island where smoke is coming to kill them. It's completely different, but I enjoy both of them equally. And I think that's kind of how with role plays it goes. It's why it's not an exact science, because a good story is a good story. A good promo is a good promo, and it doesn't matter if it's given jumping out of an airplane or given in a dark room or whatever the case is. Now, we don't want the whole thing to be in a dark room, but if the promo's there and it's really, really good, then it's good. And so I think that's it. Maybe not the best answer, but those are the things we're looking for.
Yo.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Speak.
Yep, there he is.
Tell us about your promo or your look fors.
So I have a sixth grade reading level. So I like the promos to be straightforward.
I mean, like pictures.
Yeah.
No, please don't put pictures.
I like the RPs to be straightforward. I like when in promo someone is talking shit about the other, wrestlers, talking about, well, this is why I'm going to beat you because blah 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 blah, or like they've done some research on their opponent, and it's not just like a generic or general. I've seen a lot of where it's like they'll like spend like 400 words, right, talking about themselves, and then the last 10 lines will be, and so and so, so and so, so and so. This is why you're going to lose, right? So that like that kind of promo, is not gonna score well with me. It's like I like the promos where it's like, and blah blah blah, I'm gonna beat you because this and that, da 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 da, blah 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 blah, and then it's like they run down their opponent. They run down their opponent. It's like I like the if you watched like the 80s and 90s, WWF style promos where they're they're like backstage, and then they're cutting down their opponent. So
feel you, man. You also,
yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. You also like something that is an easy, quick feeling kind of read and doesn't sort of
yeah,
drag on.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like I understand. People like to be very descriptive. And I like the role play to be. It's like when I watch a TV show, right? It's like, there. I don't like shows where the scenes are like 10 minutes, right? And then they go on to the next thing. It's like quick, it's like bam, bam, bam. Like things are moving, so so if something is dragging on for me, that'll
You lose your
score
interest
low
pretty
for me
quick.
on the readability. Yeah, I mean, again, 6th grade reading level, so big words confuse me. So just saying.
That's okay, man.
And
That's okay. Little words confuse me.
One thing too, and then we'll get into the tribulation grades a little bit. But one thing that when we've had the conversations, the three of us, and specifically me and Bobby, we're both, and Will's the same way, I think, but we're both very appreciative of the research. When we were in OCW, I'll give you this one example, and then we'll move, or I'll pivot anyway. When we were in OCW, we had this pay-per-view in Africa, and there were, and I think it was like a month in Africa. It wasn't just like a pay-per-view, but it was like a full slate. And that was actually when I was first coming back to.
We're in Djibouti.
Yeah, Djibouti. And so I'm coming back to this for the first time, and the first thing I do is I get on Wikipedia, I get on the internet, and I'm like scouring for details about Djibouti. Like, give me the name of a place, or give me something that I can make this seem more real. And so I'm looking for names, and I'm finding out the language that they're speaking, and those kind of things. And and writing role plays that try to feel authentic to the location that we're in. And others were writing a role play where the people were talking in English, and which, I mean, obviously you're writing in English. You can't not write in English if you're an English speaker. But in terms of like it was just that you could tell people were not taking the locale seriously, and it kind of makes you turn off the role play when that's the case. If I can't be bothered to even find a name of someone who would be living in this region, if I can't be bothered to know that they speak French, or things like that, little things. You don't have to actually, write in French, but maybe say he said in French with his translator nearby, things like that. And with Cambodia, the ones that we really enjoyed did a pretty good job of incorporating the idea of Cambodia being the setting in some way. If you were in Cambodia and you were talking to someone who had a Cambodian name, that gives you, I don't want to say a bonus point, but it definitely piques an interest, because, hey, this person took time to research where they were at, and it gives a little bit more of a world build to it, so to speak. So it's a little detail. It's not the biggest thing ever. If you're talking to Bob instead of, whatever the name might be that's locale to there, it's not necessarily.
Did you just say Bob because Bobby's from Cambodia? Are you like, is that some kind of thing there?
Yeah, I mean, like, he can't even do his own research, I guess. Can't even give a Cambodian name.
No, I thought, yeah, right. Yeah, where's your Cambodian name, man? Have you been lying to us this entire time? He's from, like, Pasadena.
I do have a Cambodian name, actually. So when I became a citizen, I chose Bobby.
Bobby. That's a good name, man. What, King of the Hill or something?
Yeah, he was a big King of the Hill fan.
I thought one thing about this first go around versus the Bravery Trials, I thought the members did a really good job of incorporating the setting and the story a lot more than the previous trials did. I thought that was really cool, and I thought people put forth a lot of energy and effort into trying to step into the world we created, which I really did appreciate that. So
yeah, for sure. There were a lot of cool moments where it was, oh wow, yeah, that's really neat. That's pretty, a good use of the words there to describe something. And it didn't even have to be Cambodia. I think maybe some people were like, do I need to be in Cambodia in my role play? No, but wherever you are, it needs to be authentic. You're not I know this is I know Sahara lives in Chicago. Sahara's not going out to eat a slice of New York pizza while in Chicago. Those kind of things. Like, make it authentic. Find the name of your favorite pizza place, and incorporate the name in there. Just make it seem more real. The better you can do that, to me, it just makes me more invested in you long term.
See, that's why whenever my characters eat pizza, it's always Domino's. That
There
way
you
you
go.
can get that wherever you're at.
You're authentic, All right, are we gonna get into the tribulations? Y'all ready?
I guess.
Okay, so we're gonna give you a taste to the best of our ability. Bobby, are you hanging around?
Yeah. I've
You did all your math homework?
No, I've given up and let my wife. I've tagged my wife into the math.
Gotcha.
Good job. You're
all
a
right.
good tag partner.
Shit's confusing, man.
So we're gonna give everybody a view of how we do this. So just like we do when we're in Discord and we discuss the role plays, we'll call out a name. Each of us will give some thoughts on the role play and break down the scores. Your first score will be your promo, second score readability, third score CD, and then an overall of that. And then what I'll do is, as you're giving your scores, I'll add them to mine and we'll average them together. And then at the end of talking about all three of them, we will have two winners who will then move on. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, so I've got Jaymont up first. Either one of you want to kick things off?
I have to find my scores.
Okay.
I'm going to the Discord chat here to find them. Is that them? I think that's them. Yeah, I got them. Okay. I can go first.
All right, go for it.
Okay. Jaymont. All right, let's start off with Jaymont. Okay. So, Jaymont, for his promo, I gave him a 4.25 out of 5. I really liked his promo. I thought it was one of the stronger elements of his piece. I thought he spent an equal amount of time on each opponent. I don't feel like he got too stuck on one or the other. I thought he made some good points. He talked about Bonnie too. I felt like the other opponents kind of just ignored Bonnie.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought his promo was good. It's clear that he likes cutting a promo. So I thought the promo was good. Readability, I gave him a 4.25 out of 5. I just really enjoyed his role play. It reminded me of something Lur would write or something Chad Vargas would write, where you're just reading it and this guy's walking around and he's like, "Hey, lady, get your eyes off me. I'm engaged." It's just funny. Or, "Don't you step on my $1 million shoe." I don't know. I just thought it was funny. And it just, at the end it kind of dragged a little bit because the promo just kind of took over. But I was really enjoying it up until about the last couple paragraphs. I thought the character was just funny. I don't know if it was intentional or not. I just enjoyed it. So, CD, 3.5 out of 5. There wasn't really any CD here. I did give him some points for hating on the coaches for passing on him and for taking shots to us. It was like shots at us. I took it as,
Yeah.
not drafting him. And I thought that was some good CD. But as far as a story, well, he's just hanging out at Blondie's in Vegas, which I respect, I admire, and hell, I'll meet up with Jaymont and do some drinks at Blondie's. But as far as the story goes, it's lacking. So that what is that? That's a 12, I believe. So
okay, so got those down. Bobby, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so for CD, let me look. For CD, I gave Jaymont a 3.5. Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't much going on in terms of the story.
Mm-hmm.
For promo, I gave him a 3.5. I mean, I felt like, yeah, I mean, I felt like it was just all over the place in terms of like, the trash talk or what he was talking about. And then for the readability, I also give it a 3.5. some of the things that I noticed was stuff like there was a lot of you can hear, you can see, you can do like So there are like I felt like he could have cut that down and saved those words and then put more to the story.
Yeah,
I
can see that.
Like this. I mean, like it was a good first introductory RP. I mean, it's like I'm not familiar with Jaemon at all, but I would have loved to know more about him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Know more about the character. So yeah, somebody do the math.
I got it. Well, we don't need overall. I'm just writing down the individuals because I'm going to average them together anyway.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, for Jaemon. So here's what I had. So his role play. He's sitting at a bar. He's mad because he's overlooked. Right. He didn't get drafted, and I really did enjoy. Will, you brought it up, and I think it was kind of a neat. You didn't talk about this part, but where it was listing all these coaches that had been fired.
Yeah.
The pro coaches, and how we should be up there with those people because we made a mess of this whole thing. It was kind of interesting, and I'm not going to ding it for this, but he did go on to talk about how like we only drafted people that were stuck up our butts, and I didn't know a single person I drafted. Other than, I guess I knew Mayhew out of character, but in terms of like Dadbot, I have no actual relationship with him. So it's kind of an interesting thing that, I didn't really go to just people that I knew. In fact, I tried to do the opposite of that. But
yeah.
But it's also a guy who's pissed off and he's drinking and he's ranting. So in some ways, it makes sense that maybe it's not perfect.
It's a good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like you said, it was a good promo. It was long. It did take over. I thought it probably could have been a little shorter. And what I wrote down was, other than a guy who likes to talk smack, who is Jaemont? What's going on in his life? I think to some degree he touches on maybe a feeling a little bit of inadequacy, or maybe he's come up short. At least that's kind of the impression that I got. And
yeah, I think so.
And I would kind of like to see that element explored. I think we're getting the side of him that would be bravado and not show the emotion. But that's what the camera's for. And then when the camera's off, that's what role plays are for. So I kind of would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the vulnerability. Like, man, do I still have it? Can I still do this? They wronged me, but were they right? And then maybe that character come to a realization through the promo that, you know what, they were wrong. I was right. I am the man, and here's why. Those are things that I think, the nuances of a character and showing me a little bit more would have been good in that area. But like Bobby said, it was the first time out, first time reading anything Jaemont wrote. I thought it was a good role play. I thought it was kind of solid, middle of the ground kind of stuff. And so what I had was a 4 for promo, 4 for readability, and a 3.75 for CD. I just kind of felt, again, like I wanted a little bit more of the actual character Jaemont, and it wasn't coming through there. So let me put those numbers together real quick with you guys.
Alrighty.
So what we get here for promo, adding them and averaging, we get a 3.92 for promo. Readability, also 3.92. And CD is a 3.58. So adding those three together, Jaemont's score is 11.42.
Okay.
So solid entry, 11.42. If this was the trials, it would have a lot of room for growth. But in terms of Tribulations, in terms of a one-off, it's a really strong entry. I think he's.
And I'll say this about Jaemont, and I don't know what the next scores are going to be, but I think if Jaemont would incorporate more character development and story into future Triad promos, I think he would score pretty well, because I feel like the writing, to me anyway, is a fun, entertaining read. But then again, I'm a bro, I like drinking and partying and I like all that stuff he incorporated in there. So
Yeah, cheerleaders.
yeah, cheerleaders staring at me. Hey, babe, you better watch your eyes. I'm engaged. It was so funny. It's just funny to me.
All right, so next on my list is Raven. And Bobby, you want to take Raven? Start off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so Raven is the one that, like, out of the three that I'm most familiar with, right? Because he was in the last couple trials. Yeah, I mean, I thought that this was a really, I thought this was a good promo, or good RP. I gave him a 4 for, hold on, let me check to make sure it's correct. I gave him a 4 for the promo. Something that he did, and I think who's the other guy in the match?
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, like, I thought it was
This is
funny
why
that
we don't need to do these shows live.
like, I thought it was funny that they spent a lot of focus on Rue, which I thought was really funny. But
yeah.
Raven just he's so much improved from, like, the first RP that I read, that he put out. But yeah, so I gave him 4 for promo. I gave him 4 for the CD, and then for readability, I also gave him a 4. Like, I like that the dialogue and the narration was quick, right? And it was easy to read. Like, I thought I was able to just read this and get by. So yeah, cool. 444.
Got it. Okay. For me, I wrote down it was a solid role play. I think Bobby hit the nail on the head when he said that the improvement is significant from the first role play that we read. I thought that the CD at the very beginning, the introspection that the character had, I think that hit on that rawness that I was saying that maybe we didn't see with Jaymont. Like I was here, I was on top of the world. Things were going great, and now what the heck, I love that about this character, that he's kind of in this moment of a little bit of vulnerability. It's not huge, but it's something that the character can grow from, and we get to see that. He was in the trials, he is in the Illuminatus, but what does that have? What's that give him right now? He's in a bar and he's wasting his life away. He doesn't have anything to do. So I really enjoyed that. His friend getting shot there at the end, I think was a decent plot twist. Of course, coming from someone who people get shot all the time in role plays, I can relate. And it's but it's one of those things where how does your character handle those kind of situations? And it's not like every day everybody's getting shot. I'm not saying that is a requirement for a strong role play, but you're seeing this character really deal with something and go through an emotion, and I think that's a strong thing to maybe pursue moving forward. So I kind of like that. I did think his promo really was strong at first, but it did start to drift a little bit. Like Bobby said, he hit Rue really hard character-wise, and if you followed their Twitter back and forth, it kind of makes sense, because they were the two before the draft even that were sort of ramping up the back and forth. I didn't like that he discounted Ricky in it, and I know that's a small thing, but in the promo, it was like his name's Ricky, so he can't be tough. And I just feel like like we all have names. It's just a name. Like you can be strong and still be named Ricky. So I thought that was kind of a miss there. To just
You
kind
can
of
be Cambodian and still be named Bobby.
yeah, no, you can't. But yeah, but readability was okay. It was fine. To me, it had a little bit stronger readability than the others. I thought it just kind of flowed a little better. So overall, I had him across the board at 4.25 in every category. So 4.25 for promo, for readability, and for CD. Just thought it was an overall really strong entry. And I did not go back and look at my grades for him first round, but I wouldn't be shocked to find this one at the top. I think he's shown that much improvement.
Agree. Yeah. I guess it's my turn. Yeah, to echo what you guys said, when I was reading this role play about a quarter of the way through it, I just caught myself thinking, man, he's a lot better than he was when he first started in TRIAD. He's come a long way. So getting into it, promo, I gave him a 3.5, simply because I felt it went on too long, and I felt the Rue stuff was good, but it was almost all Rue. Like, he focused so heavily on Rue, and I get the built-in feud, but I felt like if this were a game, like a real game or a real match, he'd be overlooking the other opponents and they'd beat him. He was just so focused on Rue. So, and then so because he focused on Rue so much, and because I felt like the promo went on and on a little bit, and because, like you said, I felt like he took Bonnie and Ricky really lightly. Like, oh, well, I'm better than them. So, I mean, I think you need more than that. So I gave it a 3.5. Readability, I gave it a 4.25. I enjoyed it. It was easy to read. It would have scored higher, but again, the promo was a little longer. It just sort of dragged on, the Rue stuff especially. And CD, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 because I liked the story. I thought it was interesting. It gave me something to look forward to for the potential next roleplay that he does. And trivia question, can anybody name the guy that got shot in his roleplay?
Oh, no.
It's James, man. It's James. Come on.
James. Okay, James.
Yeah. I have it pulled up, so.
Oh, okay. So you're reading it now. That's all you're saying. Okay.
I knew it was James or Jimmy or something.
You're pulling a Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's my scores. I liked it. I felt if the promo would have focused more on everybody else and a little less on Rue and would have been cut up a little bit, I thought it would have been a really good score.
Awesome. Okay, so promo, I've got those tallied, and it looks like we're at 392, which is the exact same that J-Mont was. Interesting. Readability, I have at a 4.17. And for CD, it looks like we are at 4.25. So added together, composite score for Raven is a 12.34. Very strong score. Very strong.
So he's in.
Yeah, so that guarantees him a spot. He did score higher than J-Mont. So Alex Raven, you are moving on to the Tribulation Finals. Congratulations.
There you go, OG.
There he is.
Be nice to James.
The Raisin did it.
No, I should remember it's James because of James Raven, who, by the way, will be on Team Welsh in the Wit Trials. I'm just saying.
Calling a shot. Calling a shot.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one more to go. In case, not to build drama or anything, but just to recap, James, you just got me to say James. Alexander Raven just punched his ticket with a 12.34. J-Mont currently has an 11.42, and we are ready to grade Ricky. And I will start off since I haven't started one yet.
Sir.
So here we go. So for Ricky Rodriguez, I thought that the party element was a slight elevation to a bar. I don't know that it's so much different that it would, rate a incredibly higher score. But I did think, at least there was some other things going on at the party here. I thought the line about, I know this is, you always just find something that you kind of, laugh at. But I thought the line about smacking Rue with his cousin Scroat was funny. He was talking about ripping the balls off of some kangaroo and hitting Rue with it. I did have a little bit of a nitpick here. He claimed Alexander Raven was one of Knox's sons, which we know that he's not.
Yeah, I did. I remember that.
And which is not the biggest deal ever, but it does go to we were talking about like doing research. You don't have to know everything about Alex Raven, but you can at least know he's not Knox's son.
Yeah, especially since they're both in the trials.
Right. And they've had those encounters and those mentions before. Going to the zoo was different. To me, that felt like going to the zoo felt like it was 1999 and you're reading a role play, or maybe early 2000s, and it was how can I incorporate my opponents without specifically talking about them? So it was, this animal reminds me of this guy, and this animal reminds you of this guy, and so I appreciated it. I put down that it was kind of like an old trope in e-fetting. You see it a lot, or at least you used to see it a lot, maybe not as much anymore. But I did kind of feel like the CD part was kind of everywhere. It's like all over the place. We were at a party, and then we went to a zoo, and if we weren't going to a zoo to specifically see the characters in the animals, I don't know why we're at the zoo. Like, it didn't make any sense to just randomly be at the zoo. The cat lady, which is a weird way of saying it, but the girl whose name is Cat, he clearly had issues with her, but it was very vague, and I'm sure there's a past history there with the character that maybe has been in other role plays before, but maybe just a quick, there's Cat. She, screwed him over 3 years ago by cheating on him, or something, something small that could have just let me know a little bit more about that person would have been nice. And I also put that the him being the zookeeper in the analogy with the animals was kind of weird when zookeepers don't typically fight their animals. I kind of get the idea that he's like the master of them, but it just was kind of weird. I thought, zookeeper, they're not, they'd probably get in trouble if they were smacking the gorilla around or something. So, but anyway, it was a good role play. It was well written, start to finish. It made sense. I got where he was going with it. Just maybe could have tightened up a little bit on the research and making each moment of the role play matter, I think was huge. So for me, it was 3.75 across the board. For promo, for readability, and for CD, 3.75.
Going back to what you said about zookeepers smacking their animals, I think that's how Planet of the Apes got started. So at least the newer franchise. So.
Damn dirty apes.
Yeah. So don't be smacking them, animals around. Otherwise, we'll lose the battle of the
Planet of the Roos.
Yeah, Planet of the Roos. There you go. So who's next? Mirror Bobby.
Whoever, go for it.
I'll jump in. I'm gonna cut in line, Bobby. Is that cool?
Go ahead.
All right, I appreciate it. Alrighty, well, we're doing Ricky. So let's see. Promo, I gave him a 4. I kind of liked the zoo thing. I thought it was different to compare his competitors to animals. I liked the Bonnie thing where he was just like, I don't even know what that is. It was also kind of a throwaway, which I was saying earlier, where Raven and Ricky just kind of treated Bonnie like a non-entity, which I was. But I like that. But I also felt, again, with Ricky, I felt he focused too much on Rue and not enough on everybody else. And so that kind of dragged it down a little bit to a 4. Readability, I like Ricky's work. I think his stuff is easy to read. It's quick. It flows. It's what I was talking about, where the entire time you're reading it, you feel like you're in the mind and in the world of the Ricky character. I like it. It's easy to know who the character is when you're reading his role play. And here's one thing I like that some people do is the dialect that Ricky has. It's consistent throughout. I always give bonus points for that, like Deuce used to do that, with the way Deuce talked. And people will be like, well, you didn't even spell things right. I'm like, well, that's because that's how he talks. I mean, and I give points for that because that's creativity. That requires a certain level of immersion and I don't know, like care to keep that up throughout the whole role play. So I like to reward that. And then in CD, I gave it a 3.75. The beginning to me was kind of you know. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I wasn't really interested in it. It just felt like, and I don't even know. It just felt like just throw something down to get that covered and then move on to the promo. I thought the promo was pretty good, and I thought the CD was pretty So 3.75.
Gotcha. Okay. Bobby, what do you think?
Oh, all right, yeah. Yeah, so I gave the promo a 4. I mean, like, I think that whole second, if I look at that whole second part of the RP, like where the zoo as just, him maybe not wanting to do an In the Void, promo, right?
Okay.
So he's at the zoo, right? He's, looking at kangaroos, right? Sees a flock of ravens and all that other stuff. He talked a little bit about Jaymont, goes in on Rue, goes in on Raven. So yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, nothing wrong with the and Into the Void promo, but I also like being able to as Pick was mentioning earlier, like being able to like include that trash talk or that promo talk in like into the story, right? But yes, so it's a 4. But the only thing about the second part is I think both of you mentioned, it's like, okay, it's like they're at a Halloween party and then bam, they're at a zoo. Well, like there's nothing in that first part. It's like, oh, yeah, let's go to the zoo or whatever. So yeah, so I gave the CD a 3.5. There's really not a lot that's going on. Yeah, I think I just felt like it's like he just put something together, and and I'm not sure like what I'm not trying to sound harsh, but it's like am I interested to see what is going to happen next in this story? This first RP didn't give me a lot to sort of like be excited about what's going to happen next with with Ricky and his friends. And then for readability, I mean, I gave it a 3.75. I like that. The pacing was quick though, right? It's like, okay, bam, 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 they're doing this. Somebody's talking. Okay, narration. Okay, some more dialogue. Yeah, so I gave it a 3.75. So 4 for promo, 3.75 for readability, and then 3.5 for CD.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. Promo. So this is interesting. So Ricky clocked in with a 3.92, which is the exact same promo that Jaymont and Raven got. All three of them averaged to the same promo. Interesting. So readability 3.83. And CD is a 3.67. So 392, 383, 367. All right, you guys aren't going to believe this. So when I add those three together, Ricky scores an 11.42, which is what Jaymont scored.
Really?
The exact same.
Okay, so
this has not happened. Like so Raven's a 12.34. Raven is through.
Yeah.
But for
Ricky, wait. So Ricky and Jaymon are tied with the with every score tabulated and averaged out.
So their promo was the same. Their promo averaged the same. Jaymont was 0.9 higher in readability, and then Ricky was 0.09 higher in CD. So it's the same score.
And so they need to write 10 tweets.
10 tweets. I was gonna say they need to write now a 6K promo each due within the next couple of days as a tiebreaker.
No, then we got to read
it.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Not to take away from their writing, but 6K, I don't care who's writing it. I don't want it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Gosh, I did not anticipate. We didn't have anything close to this before.
Sid Buckley has a good suggestion. Sid Buckley says the only fair thing is to give them both a spot and kick Raven out.
Hey,
you know what? I'm down for that.
That's not a bad suggestion.
I know. Let's contribute to Raven's arc. This will just add to his arc.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be that's the most. That's the most glum thing to do ever.
What do you guys want to? What do we do? Do we put them in the next Tribulations or what?
You know what? We said we would put 2 through.
Yeah.
These role plays were great. They were tied. I don't mind if they all go. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I'm good with that. I mean, it's an extra one to read, but I mean, I think they both deserve it. They're both really good writers.
Yeah, I mean, because like, what would you? I mean, to put them in any sort of like off, a role play off, a tweet off, or whatever. I mean, you're asking them to do more than what they signed up to do.
Yeah,
they did exactly what they were going to do, and I mean, yeah, I don't see a way to without going back. I'm not going to go back through and nitpick people and take points off. Or,
the scores are what they are. If we
Yeah.
go back now, then it's going to be it's not fair.
So if everybody's cool with it, I think we're going to send all 3 of them through.
That works. I mean, I think Ricky. I think both Ricky and Jaymont with a tweak here and there could do really well with another role play at the pay-per-view. So I'm excited. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of potential there.
All right. Well,
Bobby, what do you think?
I mean, I would prefer to do something off, but feel like I'm being overruled here, and I'm fine with it. I mean.
Well, we can do it, but only if you're willing to read all of the role plays.
Yeah, you'll be the judge.
6,000 word RP. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm fine with them going.
It'll be as a fifth grade level math off, and you've got a grade.
No. They have to use new math. They have to use these new math methods that don't make any sense.
Oh God.
Bobby wants something off.
Okay, so I guess congratulations. I mean, I know it's kind of like I'm still kind of shocked that they came out exactly the same. It didn't seem like it was going to go that way because the numbers were different. But I guess this goes to the whole average thing. You read and grade, and the grades are the grades. So as far as Jaymont and Ricky go, congratulations. You guys are both in. Raven, solid job as well. And I guess we'll just have one extra person in the match.
What's kind of surprising to me now that that's happened is we didn't get any ties on night 5.
Yeah.
No, we've never had it. In the entirety of the Bravery Trials and this, we've not had anything close to this. I mean, we've had scores that were really close, but we've never had a tie that we even had to discuss. So, crazy things, tribulations. You're going through things you never went through before.
Exactly, and what I think is good is there's probably going to be at least one tribulation where one or nobody shows up.
Yeah.
So this helps make up for that too.
Sure.
So
for sure.
Look, these are good. These are really good role players, so they deserve it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so congratulations, you guys. We will see you in about 6-7 weeks when we do the pay-per-view. Please continue hanging around the Discord. Now that you're officially in. If you feel like maybe writing segments for the show or doing some CD work, we're certainly would love to have you around for more of that and just be part of the Triad family. Just join in, jump in. You've got plenty of friends around. You guys know the lay of the land by now. So,
and by all means, send in some segments.
Yep.
Don't be shy. You're in the pay-per-view now, pal. So send in some segments and mess some stuff up.
Awesome. Well, that was crazy. Three people wrote a role play, and 3 people got in. So we're off to a fast start with the Tribs. Appreciate you guys that did listen. Hopefully it was worth listening to, and we will, if you guys don't have anything else, we'll see you. You got something?
No, I was just gonna say I gotta write matches. So
Yeah. Crack the whip. Write those role plays.
Yeah, man. Come on.
I
Get to it.
can't wait. I can't wait for next week and all the reviews.
They'll be fine.
All right,
Everything will be fine.
I'm good.
But yeah, so our plan is, as we said, we'll do, next Wednesday, the show will go up. So role play deadline stays on Sunday. We'll just have an extra day to write matches and maybe get some segments in for you guys. So we'll go, show will go live next Wednesday. And then the following week, most likely the radio show will be Wednesday as well. Just kind of keep an ear out for that or an eye out for that. We kind of change on the fly with radio based on schedules, but as of now, that's sort of the plan. And that would be Thanksgiving week too, I think, right? So Tuesday, Wednesday makes a lot of sense because we are not going to do radio on Thursday. I can promise that. But,
yeah, I'm gonna be at the casino for Thanksgiving.
Oh, hey,
nice.
There you go.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah.
Nice.
Turkey leg in one hand and a slot machine in the other.
Slot machine, maybe some nachos. I think I might have some nachos for Thanksgiving.
Nachos.
Nachos.
Do it real American, Not like the fancy nachos. We're talking the liquid cheese nachos.
The good kind.
No. Oh, the bubble guts nachos, man.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm Pick. This was Bobby and Will, a.k.a. TLS, and Marcus Welsh, and we are out.
All right.
You guys
Later.
Mm-hmm.